Welcome to This Week in Guns, a podcast that covers the commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. Brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your host, Chick Challen from Gun Guy Radio. You make this show possible. That's right, you. Simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Well, welcome to the program, and first of all, apology for any audio issues this episode. We've already had to reboot the Hangout once and lost one contestant already. So, rest in peace, Ebbs. Rest in peace.
I'm just saying, I don't know that the internet could have handled that much beard. You know, between Ebbs, Nate, and Billy, and you, oh my gosh, the facial hair.
It is a lot of facial hair. I'm so glad you shaved, Natalie.
Do you have a beard sponsor on the show, Jake? Because you need one.
You need one, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we have Natalie Foster, Girls Guide to Guns, Love at First Shot. Hey, Natalie.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for having me back. And also, I wanted to say a very public thank you for the baby gifts from the Amazon affiliates. That I was going to have them out, but they're packed away right now because we are redoing the little one's room. But anyway, they are super awesome. So I will have, I'll post a picture or something so that people can go and get them. But they're great little cups for your little tots.
Yeah,
very patriotic.
You're going with a complete patriotic theme, right?
I am. Stars and Stripes, baby.
Very cool. Billy Johnson of Vince the Noise. Hey, Billy.
What's going on, Jake? How you doing, man?
Doing great. So we have Nate Murr, Breech Bang Clear, and inventor of the Grip Stop, and several other inventions just around the corner. Hey, Nate.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's good to be back.
Awesome. Well, let's get rolling. You make this show possible. That's right. You simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Announcement right quick here. September 19th, that's just a month away. We are going to be at the Bullpup Shoot in Mount Carroll, Illinois. I love the name of the road this place is on, Skunk Hollow Road, Mount Carroll, Illinois. The 2015 Bullpup Shoot. Check out bullpupshoot.com for more info. Several Firearms Radio Network personalities, including myself, will be there September 19th. That's a Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come out, shoot a bunch of cool guns. Bullpups of all varieties, probably some full auto machine guns again, too. So check it out. And also, Patriot Patch makes this episode possible. Check out the Huckleberry Patch pre-order and pre-order your very own Firearms Radio Network t-shirt at patriotpatch.co. Top stories this week. Texas judge says Second Amendment doesn't guarantee the right to manufacture firearms. Guarantees the right to bear arms, but not to manufacture them. Billy, what do you make of this decision?
I don't know how, first of all, I don't know how it doesn't. I mean, the right to keep and bear arms. I mean, what does bear mean, right? I think the right to manufacture is a natural extension of your right to keep and bear arms. I mean, it's ridiculous. You have to have the arms in order to exercise your Second Amendment right, and so I don't see how a judge who has got to the level that this judge has could even say something so preposterous.
Well, and they're talking about this.
It's like saying that you...
Well, go ahead, Nate.
No, you go ahead, Natalie.
Well, okay, so they're just...
I was gonna...
So I'm just saying for the audience, they're talking about the 3D printer and putting, they've got this big conflict between the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, because the manufacturer of the instructions for the 3D printed handgun wasn't that like 2 years ago or something? I think that maybe it was a year ago that was released. But anyway, the whole conflict is over what actually constitutes free speech, and is putting it on the internet you know, because of the ITAR, however you want to pronounce it, regulations, they're saying that it's illegal because of that, because it's an export. So it's, you know, they're bringing a lot of government agencies and a lot of different statutes and policies in to contest all of this. So, I mean, it's a big legal mess. And anyway, sorry, Nate, please go ahead.
Like, to say that you don't have the right to manufacture something, it's like saying that you don't have the right to have fault or to create something. Like if it was anything else, like you don't have the right to create, you know, an automobile, or you don't have the right to construct a vacuum cleaner or whatever it might be. Like, you're throttling back somebody's intellectual rights. So, like, to me, it's like if you just take firearms out of this and say put any other inanimate object in its place, it seems saying like you have the right to own a right to make one. Like, what sense does that make?
Right. Well, I mean, I believe every state in this country, right, you have a right to manufacture a firearm as long as you manufacture that firearm within the guidelines of the laws. And that is your own personal firearm. Now, obviously, you can't sell it because you don't have an FFL. Because if you're going to sell it, then you're obviously making money. You would have to be a federal firearms license holder. So there's other complications with that. But you can actually make your own tools, no problem. So, I mean, it's happening. The people do it. I could go down to Home Depot. I can buy a piece of pipe. And you know, I could make a homemade shotgun, right? There's no law against that at all, zero.
Right. So it's really more of the distribution and the international trafficking, I think, is what.
Well, what's funny is you can go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and you could download all sorts of drawings of all sorts of firearms and all sorts of weapons. The government doesn't seem to have any problem with that. All of a sudden, someone makes a file, a CAD file, they make it available to where people can print it on a printer, and all of a sudden, you know, they go crazy over that. Well, the drawings and the plans are available everywhere online.
To me, like, the ITAR thing is just a guise. Like, they're using ITAR as an explanation or as an excuse for it. The thing is, like, I watched 15-year-old kids form AK receivers on dirt floors. So the idea that somebody, one of our enemies, is going to download a CAD file to make an AR-15 loader receiver, like, no. There's 160 million AK-47s. What do they care about an AR-15 receiver, which is infinitely more complex and requires infinitely more machinery and tools to manufacture? It's like you're blaming on ITAR because it stands ITAR. I talk to ITAR lawyers that don't understand ITAR. It's just an excuse.
Well, and we're not talking AK lower or AR lowers right now. We're talking
the single-shot Liberator gun. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So 1944 technology? Oh, that's great. Yeah, we should throttle that back.
Well, not even the gun itself. We're just talking about the plans for it, you know, to allow you to plug it into your 3D printer. So
it's absolutely a freedom of speech issue, and I think they got a good case. Hopefully they win.
Yeah. So the judge. In this case, in Texas, you know, so that doesn't guarantee, but it's been immediately appealed by Cody Wilson and people behind him. So we shall see where this goes. And in other news, ATF denies its own existence to avoid Freedom of Information Act.
Oh my gosh, this is so absurd. I can't even handle it, and it is so indicative. It just feels like such trickle-down policy to me, you know, because I feel like this administration in particular has been exceptional at skirting, you know, actual law, and now it's finally coming to a head with Hillary Clinton's run for president, you know, and now she's getting in trouble for doing, you know, illegal stuff, and but trying every which way she possibly can to skirt it, and that's exactly what the ATF is doing, and it's unbelievable how much it contradicts itself and its own language that the agency, and yes, I'm calling it an agency, has published, and this is truly unbelievable. And I mean, it won't hold up, I don't think, but what it just to me screams, what are they hiding? You know?
I would say if it's a federal agency, or if it's not a federal agency, then how does it have the legal right to create its laws like it does?
Well,
Like the ATF has legal control over laws with virtually no oversight.
interpretations of laws. So yes, they can create all sorts of different types of interpretations of the law. And you're right; they're under the
But
executive
they're also
branch.
the one. But they also create the law in some cases.
Well, they create statutes. They create interpretations of the law, but they're not actually creating law. But yes, they are allowed to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And they are under the executive branch, and any agency under the executive branch is bound by the FOIA laws, and or any government corporation, including post office, et cetera, are all bound by the Freedom of Information. I think what's funny on their website, it says that they generally have to follow the FOIA requirements. I'm like, what does that mean, generally? No, you have to follow it. Again, it's another, executive branch tries to dodge FOIAs. Everybody tries to dodge FOIAs. And again, this is coming from the most transparent administration in history, trademark.
Did they trademark that phrase? Because that would be awesome.
Yeah, Organization for Action probably did, I'm sure. I should look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels to me so. It just reminds me again why we want smaller governments. This is why the government was never intended to become this bloated and this monolithic. You're always going to get people who are trying to hide things and trying to avoid now the Freedom of Information Act. I mean, I don't think they'll get away with it, obviously, but it's just another inhibitor to, I guess, freedom.
Right. Well, all the growth in government happens under the executive branch, right? Because Congress relatively stays the same, judicial branch stays the same. So all the growth happens under the executive branch. The only way to know what all these agencies are doing is that they need to provide information both to the people and to Congress. The problem is Congress hasn't grown, thankfully, but they can't have oversight over everything, right? I mean, we've seen this with the NSA. We see this time and time again. Government is too big. Congress doesn't know what's going on. And, Freedom of Information Act allows the citizens to try to know what's going on. And it's our tax dollars that pay for the ATF. And we have every right to know what's going on inside the ATF. And especially an organization that regulates, which is just bizarre to me, but I was going to say it, regulates one of our rights, which is just absurd statement. But unfortunately, that's what they do. And we have every right to know what's going on inside there.
America is #1 in gun ownership, but not even in the top 100 for murder rates across the globe. America ranks 111 out of all countries per capita international homicide rates. So why is that?
It's actually a really interesting video. I like how Treat Williams explains it and references Wikipedia about how the country that has the most guns and then where it ranks there, and then also about how many murders per country. It's actually a pretty neat video. It's almost like two things are connected somehow. Like more guns, less murders.
Well, and then it breaks down several cities in the U.S. It breaks down one set of more of the liberal leading cities and another set of the more conservative leaning cities that have better gun laws. And so
like Treat Williams, he references like a place in Texas, right, where he's talking about like all the guns in the world, like every weapon imaginable you can find in that part of Texas, and yet it has one of the lowest murder rates of anywhere in the entire country.
Are you talking about Bill Whittle?
Yeah, is that? I thought it was Treat Williams.
Treat Williams is an actor.
Yeah, I thought that was the dude. He looks like Treat Williams.
I don't think Bill Whittle looks anything like Treat Williams, but he's a friend of mine actually, and I will tell him that you said that. He will appreciate that. But okay. He's brilliant on this topic always, and I mean, he's brilliant on all of these things. And he's not even a huge gun guy, but he just really appreciates the logic of it all.
See, I was all stoked. I thought, like, man, it's really cool they got this actor. I totally thought it was Treat Williams.
Bill Whittle.
So it's pretty interesting. New Orleans has a 53.2% per 100,000 murder rate, or 53, not percent, but 53 murders per 100,000. Am I reading that correct?
Yes.
Billy, you're the statistics guy. Help me out here.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of theories on a lot of this stuff that was going to be in my documentary that's not going to be made.
Yes, it will. I still believe in it.
You find me a rich person that wants to finance it then.
It'll happen.
I believe there's a good argument to be made that crime and violence has nothing to do absolutely at all with the access or availability of any type of weapon. I think I could make a really strong case that we don't have time in this show to go into all the details of it, but I think what's really interesting when you look at all the countries that have really low crime rates is they're typically very wealthy countries. And people always say, well, so you're saying poor people commit crime? No, what I'm saying is criminals know that it's very difficult to get a foothold in a wealthy country that has access to lots of resources, right? Good law enforcement, good judicial systems, a decently well-governed country. And it's hard to get control of those. So, people always want to compare America to, say, Sweden. Well, I'm like, yeah, look at Sweden's neighbor. I mean, they're a big island. They're surrounded by other wealthy countries. Yeah, they have a relatively low violent crime rate. We share our southern border with one of the most violent countries in the world. Okay? We have a tremendous amount of violence. If you look at where a lot of our violence is, it's in big cities. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It has a lot to do with the drug trade. So I think there's a lot at work there, and I think there's a good argument to be made that crime and high rates of crime have absolutely nothing to do with a tool. Now, beyond that, I believe everybody has a right to defend themselves. But I think criminals, for the most part, take advantage of areas, low poverty areas that don't have resources, areas that they can control and dominate. I mean, you don't want to go to the strong areas if you're a criminal. You want to go to the weak areas. You want to go to where people are weak. You want to go to where there aren't the cops, where no one's patrolling, where the neighbors, don't have the ability to go down and lobby their city council for more law enforcement. There's a lot at work there. It's like I've said before, it's a very, very, very complex issue. But that's why I laugh every time someone picks, like, hey, look at Belgium's low violent crime rate. Yeah, look who Belgium's neighbors are, right? I mean, other super wealthy countries. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Belgium's not like a hub for drug trade, right? The drugs from Afghanistan aren't flying through Belgium. All the drugs headed north come through America. They come through our southern border. So that's my take on it.
So I find it surprising that Chicago, if you compare Chicago to New Orleans, Chicago murder rate is actually like 2.5 times less
well,
than New Orleans.
You got to be careful there. That's Chicago proper. That's probably not including a lot of the surrounding areas. And so when you look at a lot of those stats, you really need to look at metropolitan area. And I don't know those stats where those are taken from, but if you look at the FBI stats, a lot of times it'll include a metropolitan area, and it'll tell you everything that's included in that metropolitan area. So if you add, I think, a couple areas in the south region of Chicago, it really bumps up the rate.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely.
Look at, Gary, Indiana, for example, has I don't see the list here, but I know Gary's one of the highest cities in the country. Actually, it's not on there right now. And it's not on that list. But last I looked, I know Gary was over 50 per 100,000. So what's really interesting is if you take out a lot of these really high crime metropolitan areas, what is our crime rate in the country? I don't know. I've never done all of those calculations, but I think there's a lot to this. It's very complex.
Yeah, actually, Billy taught me how to break down numbers. I mean, well, and he also taught me how so many of these numbers can be fudged. And, I mean, like the New Orleans piece, I lived there for a little bit while my husband was working on a movie there. And it was, that number is surprising to me, too, because of the, Chicago. I mean, New Orleans is at the top. Chicago's at the bottom of that high murder rate or, murder rate list. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they're not including areas like Metairie and Slidell, like nicer areas that are, I mean, just to Billy's point, the surrounding areas that would still definitely be considered New Orleans. Maybe Slidell wouldn't, but like Metairie would definitely be considered New Orleans, and it's a higher end area with, dramatically less crime. So, just interesting to see. I mean, yeah, you have no idea because they don't define this list, do they? Or at least I don't see the.
It's probably just something they threw together and pick and choose. I don't know.
Well, and like to see El Paso at 3.4, really? Okay, that surprises me. But
that's pretty much below the national average. Is I don't know what it's going to be this year, but in the high threes, 3 something. Actually, I think it's like right around 4. The new number should be out. The 2014 FBI uniform crime statistic numbers should be out in October or November.
So they don't even let the year complete, or was that for 2014?
I don't know what they're using here. 2013 is the last complete year we have of crime statistics. 2004 they do preliminary numbers that came out in May or June, and then they'll do the final numbers in a couple months, and that'll finalize 2014.
Okay.
So right now there are no numbers for 2015. You could find like local numbers. You'd have to do a lot of legwork to go to local agencies to try to get the crime stats right now. Like, every time someone reports, oh, there's been this huge spike in, Baltimore over the last 6 months. I'm like, well, okay, those are really preliminary numbers, and I don't doubt that there probably is, but those are numbers that they're getting probably from local police department.
I mean, is the FBI really an agency? Are we allowed to ask them for that information?
Good. That's a good one.
Well, speaking of an agency, oh wait, no, they're not. Judge hands ATF potential win over SIG muzzle device. Should have lumped the story in with the ATF one a few stories ago, but a federal judge presiding over the case alleging that the 6-hour muzzle device was misclassified as a silencer by federal regulators shut down the government's argument, but he didn't exactly buy the company's argument either, so he's going to ask the feds to revise the ruling, according to a Guns.com article. So I'm thinking this is not good news for SIG and their muzzle device. This is a muzzle device that they were saying that you could easily convert it to a silencer by just putting some sheet metal over it or some such nonsense.
Here's the thing, right? You can build your own suppressor, right? You can actually legally go and do it, right? So the thing is, the kind of person that would buy a gun that already has, like, it facilitates making the muzzle end of that barrel into a sound suppressor. If they're going to do that illegally, then why not just build a completely illegal suppressor from the ground up, right? Like, why spend the money on the SIG rifle when you can literally make a suppressor for any gun in the world? So it's like, here's the thing, a product that's designed to be attractive to the market where you legally purchase the gun, and if you decide, because that's what you have to do, you have to decide whether or not you want to buy a suppressor for it, you buy the specialty tube that only works with your configuration. And if you don't want it, you don't have to. A suppressor is something, by definition, that reduces the decibel level of the firearm. This thing, this muzzle device, does not. It's not until you put that sleeve over it, which is made by SIG for it, that it does that. And it's purpose-made. So like, can somebody potentially make it into an illegally suppressed weapon? Yes, but I can go out in my garage and illegally do the same thing around with any of my guns. So it's like the intent to manufacture a legal suppressor, that doesn't change. That's a constant. It doesn't matter what the gun is. So like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand why the ATF's so threatened by their muzzle device. And in reality, it makes the gun louder. You know, it doesn't do anything to suppress the weapon. So by definition, that muzzle device is not a suppressor because it's readily adaptable. That's the issue, which is just ludicrous because the hardware store is full of things that are readily adaptable to be suppressors.
Right, and my 80% lower is not a firearm. And there's no way you could say it is a firearm, and there's no way you can say this at the end of this SIG rifle is a suppressor, because it's not a suppressor. So it's kind of funny to me. It's, again, another bizarre thing that the ATF is trying to do. How about catching some bad guys that are taking guns down into Mexico, ATF? Oh, that was you.
Oh, wait, that was done on purpose. So no.
Hey, they're not actually an agency. They don't know what they're doing, okay? Maybe if they're actually an agency, they wouldn't be making all these mistakes.
Well,
I think that requires more training.
Training, what's that? Speaking of south of the border, Panama lifts gun ban for self-defense of citizens. So this is pretty interesting that Panama is revising some of their gun public safety regulations to, I think, allow more gun permits. So.
Well, they already have something. I think they have Panama. It's Panama and Vietnam. Isn't that where a lot of the true definition of ghost guns come from? Meaning there's a lot of people on the streets manufacturing like 1911s. I know Vietnam, that's a really common thing, right? Like they're making handmade 1911s in like huts.
Wow.
And there's tons of videos online. It's absolutely amazing when you see like a 12-year-old kid like making a 1911, and you're like, wow. And then they pack it up and they ride their bike like 20 miles and they sell it on the black market in some city. I think there's a lot of the same stuff going on in Panama, and obviously a lot of those guns are used for crime, and people have the right to defend themselves against criminals. So, good Panama.
Good on them for issuing more permits. I mean, like for me, I'm like, well, this sounds like a Panamanian problem, so what do I care? But at the same time, it's like the human, like inherent right of a human being, that self-protection, and allow their people to do that, then good. Nothing bad can come from it.
No, because the good people aren't the people that are causing the problems for the, it's like
that's right.
It's like that everywhere in the world. Amazing, huh?
But this is such an anomaly for a country south of the border, right? I mean, that's pretty fascinating that they would do this. I'll join the bandwagon. Good on you, Panama.
Well, let's take a trip back to the U.S. up in your neck of the woods, Billy. The third largest city in Michigan seeks to ban flamethrowers.
Is that a problem up there, Billy?
Well, you know that new flamethrower, the X whatever, that was on like Indiegogo or whatever that you're starting to see on social media? Those guys that made that flamethrower are in Detroit. And so, the mayor of Warren's, he sees this as a huge problem, right? Flamethrowers.
Is that why Detroit's on fire?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's these flamethrowers these guys are making. And so he's just trying to get ahead of the game and wants to ban it before it's a problem. That's from the mayor, which I think is really funny because we all have access to a flamethrower. It's called a gas station, and I kind of have a flamethrower, right? I have a big torch that goes on a propane tank, and that's how I melt ice on my driveway, right? And it'll shoot a flame out probably 2 feet. So is that going to be banned so I can't melt my ice on my driveway? It's just absolutely ludicrous.
My favorite line... Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
I mean, does anybody really need 15 feet of fire? Why can't you just have 1 foot of fire? I am tired. I don't think we need high-capacity flame.
Well, Michigan, we changed our fireworks law, so you can buy anything in Michigan now, right? Mortars, everything. So I think it's so funny. There's a store like a couple miles from me where you can go and buy like the biggest mortar rounds you've ever seen, and I could go and launch them off here. And this guy's like worried about some freaking flamethrower from Indiegogo. Why don't you run your city, Mr. Mayor?
The best line from this article, I think, is, quote, exempted from the ordinance are open flame cooking devices, paint torches, and outdoor patio heaters, as well as, get this, any device used by the federal, state, or local law enforcement or fire department. So you can't have them, but we can.
Right.
I mean, unbelievable.
And like I said, when I saw that flamethrower, when I saw that thing on whatever social media or whatever crowdfunding site it was on, I was like, wow, I could really melt the ice on my driveway a lot faster with that thing.
Well, and I love in the article, too, how, I mean, you know, the people who created it are talking about it. The problem is intent, right? It's intent to use something like this badly. And, you know, how are you going to control that?
I mean,
guess what? People are going to get
is there any... Is there any for fire?
He's cracking himself up right now.
Yeah, like I'm applying all the liberal things that people say about guns to fire. It's hilarious. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna be quiet for the rest of the show.
No, I'm thoroughly enjoying you entertaining yourself. I actually think
you
it's
cut
really
out there,
funny.
so I can hear exactly what you said about the fire part.
I said, is there any legal sporting purpose for fire? I mean, really?
See, thanks, Nate. Now they're going to outlaw fire like across the board. Won't be able to have stoves.
Molon
or
fiber.
fryers or...
If you need to start a fire, then you should call the guy that starts the fire. There's no reason you need to be starting a fire on your own.
That's right.
Who controls the matches here?
Are we gonna have that fire department? Oh my
Right.
God! It'd be like Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, but we're going to have to start a new department that actually starts the fires, because the fire department technically puts the fires out. So
Right.
No,
We
that's what they do in Fahrenheit 451.
right, but that was a movie.
There was a book.
Here's a book.
No, we're talking about
no.
what?
We're not talking about the Fat Guys documentary. We're talking about like
Orwell.
Waynesbury.
No, it
Was it
wasn't
Orwell?
Orwell.
I can't remember.
No.
Oh, was it? No. It was, what's his name?
All right, this is going down really fast here. It's
No, I have to know. It's the guy. It was the guy that did all of the movies back in the 50s. Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's a literary classic. It's like a cautionary tale. It's kind of like 1984 that way.
Yeah,
Which
a
was
little bit.
Orwell. That was Orwell.
That was Orwell.
All right.
Now
Say
until they
hello
go on
to the Trigicon MRO. So Trigicon is trying to make some new strides here in the micro red dot world with this new miniature rifle optic. So I don't know if any of you guys have.
I already
Yes.
talked. Yeah, I already saw him talk to the Trigicon reps, right? So anyway, there's angry Swedes right now. The Aimpoint people are not happy about this because this is obviously coming after the micro red dot market, like the T1, the T2 market, that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. I'm really excited for this optic. I'm sure it's going to be Trigicon reliable, Trigicon tough. But why would they make it take its own mount? That's the first question I asked the Trigicon guys to take. Please tell me it takes a T1 mount, which there's literally unlimited mounting options for. Like, no, it's our own proprietary mount. Great. So that means you have like two options. If you go buy one of these things, like, good luck. You're not going to find any mounts for at least a year.
Yeah,
they don't
that's-
sell them with the mounts?
No, they come with their own, the Trigicon's own terrible mount. But I'm saying is like if they would have made it take a T1 mount, then literally any aftermarket T1 mount would have fit the MRO. It's like
It's a very.
Like, here's the thing. Vortex even did that. The Vortex Spark has the same thread pattern as an Aimpoint. Like, nobody owns the patent on thread placement for the optic. They could have easily done it. Aimpoint couldn't have touched them for it, but they didn't. They wanted to be their own people. So
Right.
That's the only design flaw I see right now.
It's the very Apple way of doing things.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Let's
Yeah.
release this new line. Oh, this old connector doesn't work. Let's come out with the Lightning connector and make all the other accessories obsolete.
And if you give it a sexy name like the Lightning connector, then people will obviously fall for it.
Right. Good
Yeah,
business.
Anyway, it looks like a good optic. I'm excited about the price point. Like MS
Declared it's Thunderbolt, but that's okay.
Thunderbolt.
That's a different podcast.
But anyway, the MRO, I mean, it promises pretty good battery life. It's an interesting design layout for the rear objective. It's smaller than the front, so it promises a wide. I mean, it looks pretty cool. You're going to be able to get one of these things for like $450. So I'm stoked. I love Trijicon. I think they made a bad decision with their mounting option, but aside from that, it looks good.
Cool. All right. Well, let's see here. I think we're going to skip this story. Nix fixes and improvements are supposedly going to roll out in 2016. I'm a little bit tired of talking about the ATF. So, shocking.
Well, that would be the FBI, so.
Or FBI. Yeah. Well, you know, all these agencies are this away.
Bureaus. I think that's the difference. If they've got bureau in their title, then they're not an agency, and so you can't get any actual information from them.
Yeah. Well, I'm changing the network to the Firearms Radio Agency Bureau.
Bureau. If you say bureau, I'm telling you, you're safer.
I'll have to ask my attorney. IKEA stabbing attack. 3 stabbings take place in Swedish IKEA store. I believe the guy used knives from the store, and now IKEA has
banned their knives. Yeah.
Their knives. They've taken their knives off the shelves.
Because lightning always strikes twice.
Right. Yeah, they're going to have all these rampant knife attacks now.
Well, the thing is, if this guy picked up a knife, there's obviously other knives there that someone else could pick up, and that's a bad idea. I think what really, when I read this, what this really says to me is, you know what? There's crazy people everywhere. No one has the trademark on crazy people. They're all over the planet, every country, and if they want to hurt other people, they're going to do anything possible and any means necessary to harm other people. That's what crazy people that want to hurt other people do. And that can happen at an IKEA in Sweden, that can happen in Russia, that can happen in China, that can happen in Detroit, that can happen anywhere. So.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Jake, can we talk about the officer who was clubbed with his own gun?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and start us off with that one?
This was an incredibly frustrating article that I saw earlier this week, and obviously it's the, for those of you who didn't see it, you know, this guy was, I believe, this officer was, my computer's being super slow, so I can't pull the article up, but, so he is arresting a guy, let's see, he's in, I'm trying to find the location, but anyway, so he's arresting a guy, and I guess he has his gun out on it. No, I think he got punched, like sucker punched, and then the guy grabs his gun from his holster, if I'm not mistaken, and starts pistol whipping him, and the guy ends up, you know, out cold and bloody, and you know, and he didn't want to shoot him, he didn't want to fend him off because he was afraid of being called racist. And enduring, you know, whatever investigation and legal proceedings that he would have to go through. So instead, now, I mean, this is exactly what was going to happen, right? With Baltimore and with Dallas and you know, with St. Louis or Ferguson, whatever. It's so frustrating to me, and I have such deep-seated respect for our law enforcement. And it breaks my heart that this is what's going through their mind. They're having to think twice instead of going with their training, doing what they are hired to do, are trained to do. They are second guessing themselves, and now
they're always in harm's way, right? But now even more so, and it's absolutely infuriating. And this is a direct, result of what has happened in the media and how these people, these other officers, have been crucified in the media without having, without all of the facts. Even if the facts are put out there, they're not acknowledged. They're just skimmed over by primarily the mainstream media, but other, Black Lives Matter and other organizations who will, perpetuate a particular narrative that is not usually even true. So I don't know. This is really breaking my heart, and it really got to me this week. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Nate?
I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm going to pass.
Okay. Nobody? Really? Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I'm just going to say I don't think all gun owners should be blamed when some psychopath commits a crime. I don't think all cops should be blamed when some cop goes off and does something that he shouldn't do. Every job in this country has bad apples, whether or not they're in the White House, they're in law enforcement, they're school teachers, they're whatever. You're always going to have someone that's doing something wrong. Subway had a guy who was in their commercials that obviously did something really horrible. So I don't like to judge an entire group of people, whether it's white people, black people, cops, whoever, based on the actions of a few people. So, the media can really, and I don't want to dismiss the fact that we obviously do have some issues with over-criminalization in this country, but that doesn't mean I'm going to blame every cop for that. I blame the politicians more than anything. But it's a horrible situation. There's people out there that are doing good jobs to try to keep the streets safe, and I don't like to see that any more than I don't like to see anybody being singled out for, or any group being singled out for the actions of a few people. So yeah, it's not good.
I'd really like to hear what Nate has to say. Are you really going to be quiet?
I think I'm going to pass on this one.
All right, fair enough.
He doesn't want to get banned from the show. That's what it comes down to.
I just don't want to go on a long rant full of timestamps and get banned from the show.
Especially because I don't have a timer running this episode. Thank you.
Oh, I could totally timestamp the timestamp out of this.
No. Okay. So, feds, local cops search for gun heist suspects. Get this. Thieves stole 77 guns during a 4-day crime spree. So these guys hit 3 different gun shops within 4 days. And just smashed and grabbed as much as they could.
Yeah, it's obviously that's an issue. I want to know, how are these gun shops locking their stores up? Now, and I'm not trying to blame the victim here. Obviously, these guys were criminals, but it's always interesting to me because I've always kind of thought about, like, if I owned a gun shop, how would I secure my building so people can't bash in a window and all of a sudden have all the guns in a case? I mean, I know when I lived in Los Angeles, and I don't know if this is a Los Angeles issue, but a lot of the gun shops take everything out of the cabinets and it goes in a massive safe at night.
Yeah, that's right.
I know the one
in DC too. There's one in DC that I was at recently that there was exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious. Like that seems like 4 shops in a row. Although I do have to say, living in rural America where I live now, I mean, I go to quite a few gun shops and I do see that other than having a burglar alarm, there's really not a whole lot of protection. So, and I know that, here we go, the ATF requires a certain amount of security at a store. It's interesting to me. That seems like an awful lot of guns to steal from 4 different stores in one night. Oh, 4-day, I apologize, 4-day crime spree.
Yeah, pretty ballsy. They didn't, hit one and lay low. They just boom, 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 one after another.
Well, and of course they didn't do it when the store was open. Right, right.
I mean, you can drive a truck through a wall. You know what I mean? Like, imagine
these-
if you just backed a dump truck
Well, and people have done that.
through a wall
People have
and
done
just
Mhm.
guns as you can in the back. I mean, like, where there's a will, there's a way. Remember, the only thing a lock does is it keeps an honest man honest. Everything mechanical can be defeated if you have the time and the tools and the know-how. So, I mean, to me, it's not that surprising. It's just a bad deal that, you know, that many guns got ripped off by bad guys.
Well, these guys, I don't even think that were that sophisticated. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't really get the chance to review like the procedure that they went through to break in, but I'm just saying, like, anything can be circumvented.
Right. I wonder if this was more of a case of a, kind of like Billy was saying, more of a low crime Mayberry type of setting where, you know, nothing like this ever happens, and so the security wasn't as great. You know, everything probably wasn't locked into a massive safe and stuff like that.
well, massive safes
The
are
thing is,
outrageously expensive too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I mean, like, once you meet the ATF criteria of how you secure your shop, I mean, not every small mom and pop shop has a spare $100,000 laying around to build a vault in the back room. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like if they're in a high crime area, or, you know, maybe these people left a more urban area to come out to a more rural area just to score those guns. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go into that.
The shop by me was hit last year, and it as soon as it was hit, someone in the police department said, "That sounds a lot like this guy," and they like automatically just spit out a name, and they're like, "Where is he?" And they tracked him down downstate, and when the troopers showed up at his house, they saw him asleep on the couch through the window with guns laid out all over the floor. So they caught him. Like, they knew who it was. Like, right when, you know, a small town, you break in, they're like, "I bet it was that guy," and sure enough, it was that guy.
So was he doing the thing like when they rob a bank and they lay all the money on the bed and like swim in it? Was he doing that with the guns?
Yeah, well,
It's not really
you should see,
comfortable,
you should
I
see these
think.
guys' booking photo, because they both have, like, they're so proud that they got caught, these huge grins on their face, and they got spanked. They got 5 to 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah, so smile all you want, boys. Breaking and entering will get you 5 to 15.
All right. Before we get into the full auto news, we have a huge backload of stories here because we didn't have a show last week. So I'm going to skip all of these unless you guys want to grab one and talk about it. And you can, for those listening while they're looking it over, thisweekinguns.com/130 will have all these links in it if you want to check out all the gun news that we've compiled in the last 2 weeks.
I think maybe we should talk about the Regal Cinemas are now searching your bags in every theater.
Oh my god.
And the reason why I think we should bring this up, all right, so like there's a Facebook group, it's MASF, and it's basically like a firearms collective, like all pro Second Amendment stuff, right? But, like, you know, people like post everyday questions on it, and I remember seeing this like a week or two ago on this Facebook page that people down in Northern Virginia were complaining about the local movie theater. I think it was in the Sterling area or the Chantilly area, searching bags. So one of the guys who was a member of the group, some do-gooder, criticized how they were searching bags and went over and told the dude a better way to search bags or something. And everybody on the page, just kind of, myself included, went a little crazy on the guy. Like, why would you teach, you know, a Regal Cinema employee a better way to search bags, right? And how does this apply to people that are legally carrying their handgun? Like, as far as I understand it, Regal doesn't have a policy against carrying concealed firearms, but that's probably about to change. But somebody brought up this interesting point that you look how expensive it is to go to the movie theater anymore, right? A soda and a bag of popcorn costs. Somebody's like, you know what? They're going to have their employees search bags probably more so just to make sure nobody's bringing in outside food and that doesn't cut into their profit margin. Because here's the thing: is like when the 17-year-old Regal Cinema employee opens a bag and sees a Glock 19 inside it, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna take the gun? Is he gonna do a citizen's arrest? What's the outcome? You know, it's not like they have security guards doing it or like, you know, police officers doing it. They're just doing it on their own. So I don't see this ending very well for one, Regal, and then two, I don't see it going very well for people that legally carry in that state. You know, especially with how scary it is. You know, anywhere public you go, you could potentially get in a deadly force encounter. Like if I go to the movie theater, I want to bring my gun and my flashlight and my spare mag. So the idea that they're going to search my person to go to the movie theater just says I'm not going to go to that movie theater, or I'm just not going to go to the movies anymore.
But that's it, Nate. Actually, so there's another Facebook group called the Shooting Sisterhood, and they, of course, were searching bags in, you know, the bags of one of the women that's on the board, and she, you know, went up to them and she said, "Excuse me, you know, yes, I have my gun. I'm legally permitted. I have my gun in my bag." And, you know, what's the policy there? And they say, well, we ask you not to bring it in, even though you're legally permitted. And this was in Tennessee. And so, you know, she was not happy about it, but she went and put her bag in, she put her gun back in the car, locked it up, and then she went and she noticed that there were some other people who she knew were permitted and were carrying on their person, and they were not searched. So they're only searching bags. They're not searching.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, all it takes is for one Regal Cinema to do a pat-down search and touch somebody's private area, and now you got a lawsuit. You know what I mean? So it's like this whole thing is like, I think it's one of those things like a knee-jerk reaction by the company that runs or owns Regal. They're like, oh, this is what we should do. But like immediately it's about like, you know what? I think this is more as an excuse to check for unauthorized outside food than it is to protect you. Because if the guy finds a gun and it's going to be used in a negative way, it's going to be used in an evil, bad way, like the guy's intent is to go into that movie theater, then you're probably not going to find that guy's gun. He's probably just going to shoot you and proceed with his plan. It's such a flawed plan. It's just so ridiculous, and it's just another way. It's limiting having the good guys with guns.
Well, and it gives a total false sense of security.
Right, I mean,
a false sense of security, exactly.
Right, just like the TSA.
Well, and invasion of privacy. I mean,
and invasion of privacy.
I wouldn't go to a theater. I mean, if the theater wanted to search my bags, I'd say, sorry, I'm going to take my business elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just like, you're a movie theater. You're not touching me, and you're not touching my possessions.
Yeah.
So
you're a movie theater. You're not a sworn law. I remember in Iraq where they started the Lioness program, where they had female Marines being attached to units because they thought that it was culturally insensitive that male Marines were searching Iraqi females, right? So the Iraqi males would get upset that other males were touching their women. So all of a sudden, the only person that was supposed to search females were other female Marines or a medical professional like a corpsman or a doctor. So believe me, it's like this severely complicated trying to search people while trying to find weapons and suicide vests and everything else.
Right, you're going to wait to search someone while you find the female.
It was stupid.
In the meantime, that person can detonate the bomb they're wearing underneath their clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. When I saw that kind of like that politically correct nonsense trickle onto the battlefield, I'm like, wow, if we're doing this here in a war zone, I wonder what's going on back home right now. Well, apparently this is the kind of stuff that's going on at home. Where now a movie theater apparently can search you.
A 16-year-old, like you pointed out, who's on their summer job, who's thinking about going back to their biology class in the fall, is going to search your bag. Yeah, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like, what if he actually finds a bad guy? What's he going to do? It'd be like the dog that chases the car and never really expects to catch it. If he actually catches the bad guy, what is he going to do? So ridiculous.
Okay. Are there any other stories you guys want to hit real quick before we head into the full auto section? No? You can now contribute to the Firearms Radio Network in This Week in Guns by shopping our Amazon affiliate link or by clicking the Amazon banners on thisweekinguns.com or bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. We are to the full auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about, and other crazy stuff. This is where each of us pick a story or two to call our own. And feel free to pick any from above if you saw one in this time. Who's ready?
I go.
All right.
I love the stories of burglars calling the police and telling them of their plans before they actually go and commit their crime. And most of the time, it's obviously an accident. Their phone butt dials them, and like the case of this guy who accidentally butt dialed the police, and they were listening closely. It was in New Jersey, and he was talking about his plans to rob this house, and they seemed to have had officers there ready, and when he went and broke into that house, they arrested him. So I'm sure no criminals are listening to the show, but I think the lesson to learn here, if you're a criminal, is learn how to lock your screen so you don't, accidentally dial 911. This guy's obviously a brilliant criminal, and I just, for all the people that dial 911, like butt dial 911, like it happens a lot. Like if you've ever talked to someone that works in a call center, they'll tell you they get so many calls a day of people accidentally dialing 911. It's got to be like a needle in a haystack that right when that butt dial actually connects to 911 that someone is talking about a crime they're going to commit. But yet we've heard about this like probably at least like 5 times over the last couple of years. I think it's really amazing that this happens. But, criminals, what are you going to do?
All right, Natalie, what do you got?
Yeah, sports bra saved German cyclist and sets off debate over hunting. So I just think this is like such an amazing story because, okay, so the key piece here is, so this woman is cycling and apparently in a territory, it really doesn't give much detail about, the hunters. But they were on a wild boar hunt, and I don't know if they were in proper territory. This is in Germany, so I'm sure the laws are very, very different from here. But and of course, especially with hunting in the news, this is just very interesting. But the body of it, let's see, hang on. So it strikes the animal, and they're thinking that it ricocheted off the animal somehow and struck this woman, but happened to strike her in the underwire of her sports bra. Like, what are the chances? I just think that is so freaking amazing. It's like, I think she's probably one of those, like, unbreakable people. Like, I think this is pretty profound. And if you don't feel like your life has purpose after getting hit with a bullet but deflected, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I think it's pretty.
Must be related to Bruce Willis.
I know, must be. Or isn't Samuel L. Jackson, isn't he the... No, he's the bad guy, isn't he?
Yeah, Bruce Willis was the Unbreakable. Okay,
right. So, and was what's his name in it? The little kid? No, that was another movie.
Well, let's keep playing this game. This is good.
I know. Sorry, we're so easy, but at least I got Ray Bradbury. But anyway, I just thought that was a pretty amazing story. That's my favorite one of the week. It's kind of a feel-good story,
I think it's time you released your bulletproof bra line of clothing, right?
I mean, the military definitely needs one of those. But what are the odds? Are you kidding me? Like, that thing is like a centimeter wide, if that. I mean, that is insane. That is insane. You dudes don't appreciate this. Like, that crap is so freaking uncomfortable, and so for it to save your life, that is so huge. I would wear one every day for that very reason. Of course, then they also say if you get struck by lightning, it can actually stop your heart. So I don't know. But this woman, it benefited. So congratulations.
Also, it can be used to pick a lock. I learned that from the second season of Scandal. I'm just saying.
All right, Nate, what do you have?
I'm gonna dodge the one that I think everyone would think I would do, which is the Army Ranger School graduates his first 2 women. I don't even want to talk about that.
Oh, I did think you were going to choose that. I did. I actually
Yeah.
want your opinion on it.
So just for anybody, if anybody knows, like, if you go to Ranger School, you leave with a Ranger tab, which means you're Ranger qualified. That doesn't mean that, like, you're gonna go do Army Ranger stuff. So, what I want to talk about, Sentry gun that this machinist built. This seems pretty cool, right? Because since I don't believe in limiting, the ability of people's thoughts and their designs and their ideas, cool. So what this dude did was he built a Sentry gun that takes an AR-15 with about $150 worth of electronics for the entire project, right? So ideally, you would be able to remotely fire this weapon system. And the thing is, like, DARPA spent a whole boatload of money on this years ago. There's systems like this that already exist in the military. They're just not used, or they're very seldomly used. But this guy built this thing in his work. Fires it by pulling a string, so the ATF, that's not an agency, they can't come down with the iron hammer on him. So it's still completely legal. And I think he set it up with an airsoft gun as a proof of concept. But I think it's kind of neat. I like to see, like, people push the envelope technology-wise, particularly when it coincides with firearms. Like, we're still using chemical energy to propel a lead slug down a spiral tube. I mean, that hasn't really changed that much in the last 100 years. So to see hybrid things like electronics and optics and everything else be integrated with a firearm, like, that's kind of cool technology to me. I think well, this could be used in a negative way. Like, I'm sure that machinist who's making $160,000 a year wants to throw his life away to make something bad and sell it to bad guys on the street. Like, it's that kind of thing. Just like all these other devices, like that SIG rifle with the muzzle device. I mean, bad guys aren't going to buy that. Bad guys are going to do bad guy stuff on their own. So this is one of those things where I don't really see it being used as a negative. It's just kind of a cool proof of concept. It's just like, hey guys, check this out. I made this. It's like a hobbyist thing. So that was the story I liked.
Okay, 2 things. Can it be hacked? And then,
anything.
And then the second, no, okay, you answer that, and then I'll tell you my second thing.
I don't know enough about the system. Like, the guy just built it in his garage. I mean, he's still pulling the trigger with a string, so I'm going to say no, he can't. You can't be hacked. Now, if he hooked up some sort of solenoid, which would be pretty easy. I mean, that's basically like on, like, World War II fighter aircraft, like the 50 cals and the wings. They were fired electronically through a solenoid. If you go to, like, modern personnel carriers and stuff that have remote fire weapons, it uses a solenoid where you hit a button, like the joystick button, and that puts current in the solenoid, and it pushes a plunger, and that's what depresses the trigger. It's like literally 100-year-old technology. It's nothing new. Solenoids are used in all kinds of other technologies. But I mean, it could be if he hooked it up to the internet, I guess. But, like, who knows? So.
I love it when you go all tech nerdy, geeky on us, Nate. It's so fascinating. Okay, second thing. I think this is the second time since this is the second show that I've been on with you in which you have cited DARPA, and I just want to put the challenge out there to you now that I want you to talk about DARPA at least once in every show from now on.
I don't think I could do that. I don't know enough about DARPA.
Come on, you know enough about DARPA.
Like, DARPA is like, what was the guy, like, Batman, like Morgan Freeman, the dude that, like, did all the cool stuff for Batman? Yes. Something Fox, like the character that made all the cool toys for Batman.
Yeah,
well, that's basically what DARPA. Yeah, it's like Morgan Freeman, but in the more recent Batman movies, like Morgan Freeman's character. Well, that's what DARPA is for the military. It's like that's like the high tech, super sophisticated weapon systems, proof of concept type stuff that sometimes turns into that's actually produced, and sometimes it was just, hey, let's try this. Let's do a project and see if this works out. this is something viable. So I mean, it's such a crapshoot with DARPA, and like it's super top secret stuff. So not DARPA information out. So
I'm just saying, it's cool. So you need to cite it because
it is cool. That's why I like it, and that's why I do bring it up.
I know, I love that you do. I think it's fascinating. And it's Lucius, by the way. I just looked it up. Lucius Fox.
Lucius Fox. Yeah, that's what DARPA is.
All right, I'm going to go with active military-grade grenade found outside Maryland McDonald's. Apparently uncovered by a landscaping crew. It says the active hand grenade was uncovered Saturday in the parking lot. It was apparently buried about a foot under the pavement where it's been there for several decades.
Ooh.
So how do you go about losing a hand grenade, I wonder?
Well, that's a funny story. I've seen people lose lots of grenades over the years. But from the sounds of this story, Jake, it sounds like somebody probably like smuggled one home from like World War II or Korea, which back then like they didn't really have like dude, you guys were bringing machine guns home and stuff. Nobody cared, But the bad thing about those is degrade with time. So depending on what grenade, like flake TNT, or it could have been a variety of different explosives, but they become more sensitive over time. So at any point, that grenade could have like potentially went off its own. But remember, kids, once you pull the pin on Mr. Grenade is no longer your friend.
They had the same problem here in Los Angeles when they were building down south near Marina del Rey. And it's an area called Playa Vista that's been super controversial for years and years. But they ended up developing on it, and as they were digging, they found a World War II era bomb because they used to make them there. So they didn't just lose a grenade; they lost a bomb.
See, the thing is, like, we're Americans. Like during World War II, we produced so much stuff so fast. Like we didn't have time. Like we needed to get the ammunition and the ordnance. The French actually have a ministry. It's called like Ministry de Mine. It's these dudes that drive around in rural France and they collect ordnance. So the thing was like 1 out of every 4 shells fired in World War I was a dud. And some of the biggest shells buried themselves deep in these fields, like dozens of feet below the earth. And through time and erosion, the rounds are slowly pushed to the surface. Every spring, when the farmers plow their fields, they find live ordnance left over from World War I and World War II. So the farmers, like, they're used to it. They're like, whatever. They collect the ordnance, they put it on the side of the road. They just literally stack it on the side of the road, and these mining guys come and pick it up. It's like they're used to it.
They find them in the UK all the time. They find British ordnance in the UK all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
One very famous story of this guy. Yeah, I mean, like Cambodia and Vietnam is the same way. Like they're still constantly recovering ordnance from the Vietnamese War. But anyway, there's this one really famous story I'll just tell real quick. There's this French shoemaker, right? And he found this big Bertha, like this huge house around in his garden, right? So this dude's like, well, this thing's so old, it's obviously no longer a danger. Wheeled it into his workshop, and he would shape leather on the nose of this round, like this giant house round, like pointy end of the bullet, there with a hammer. Everybody told him he was insane. Like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Why would you do that? The dude did that for like 25 years, hitting this shell with a hammer every day. And he's like, look, if it was gonna blow up, I would have done it a long time ago. But one day the dude's shaping leather, and he pounds it one last time. It leveled a city block in France. Yeah.
Wow.
Oops.
Wow.
So don't mess with old ordnance, kids.
Yeah, like if you find what appears to be unexploded ordnance, then just go ahead and call the police and get the EOD guys. Do not screw with it.
So back to the grenade. You see in movies sometimes they'll put the pin back in the grenade. Does that actually work, Nate?
Yeah, that works. That totally works.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have the pin, you can always duct tape the spoon down. If it's a model grenade that has a spoon, like the little thing that you hold down, right? But here's the thing. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's not the mechanism. It's the explosives. All right. So like TNT becomes unstable with time, right? So like if you went into an old mine and you found a bunch of old dynamite or a bunch of old TNT, well, over time nitroglycerin will settle and it'll become very, very sensitive again. So it's like if you bumped it, it could potentially go off. So that's the thing, is like a lot of this old ordnance using a lot of explosives used in World War II were nitroglycerin based. Like you're inviting yourself, like it could still go off. It could still kill you just by picking. It's a bad deal. Don't mess with it.
Patriot Patch Company makes this episode of This Week in Guns possible. Check out the Huckleberry Patch pre-order going on now. We have a new, if you remember Bullet Bill from Mario Brothers, we have Bullet Bill patch also available at patriotpatch.co. That about wraps us up. Nate, what's going on? Where can people connect with you online, and you have any new stuff you can hint about, or is that still around the bend here?
I mean, I got back. I just spent a week out in Oregon running around. I had a great time. Got to see a bunch of really great people. I got to go visit Tactical Tailor up in Washington, and AXTS Firearms, which are the guys that make the really awesome ambidextrous Raptor charge handle. And I got to go down and see Era 3, which is just the most amazing company in the world. So I got to see a bunch of really cool stuff. Got back off that trip, and I got a bunch of some pretty big announcements soon. Hopefully within the next week or two, I can start leaking that to you guys and elsewhere. But anybody wants to connect with me or see what I'm all about, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram. The Instagram handle is GripStop, because that's my awesome invention. And if you care enough to read my thoughts about guns and this kind of craziness, you can check my articles out on Breach Van Clear, Recoil Web, and occasionally in Recoil Print magazine. So
very cool. Natalie, what's going on?
Oh, I'm just expanding a lot as a person. I am growing a human, so that's been keeping me busy. But other than that, getting ready for birth, and thinking a lot about being a good gun mom. But yeah, girlsguidetoguns.com is where you can reach me. And same thing, Instagram, Facebook, online. I also have a jewelry line on Etsy that you can find, and that's all linked on everything, so all my social media. And then we've got some new developments actually with the firearm that I'm doing with Devil Dog Arms, and I'm really excited about that stuff that's coming up. We've got an event coming in December in Texas that I'm really stoked about, and I'll give you more details on that soon. But yeah, other than that, I'm just over here at patriotpatch.co ordering my Huckleberry patches because they're awesome.
Well, we'll have to do like a Girl's Guide to Guns patch or something at some time.
I need one, man. That's exactly what we need to do. This is so rad.
Well, a big shout out to my graphics guy, Ryan Cross. I mean, he's the genius behind all those awesome designs.
They're fantastic. Really well done.
Cool.
This is a great gift, by the way. Like, this is a great dude gift.
Absolutely. Check it out, patriotpatch.co.
Oh, yeah, and hey, if anybody... So my anniversary is coming up, and I don't know what to get my husband. So if anybody has any good ideas, I want to hear. Chime in on social media and tell me what you think.
Very cool. Billy, Amidst the Noise, what's going on?
Yeah, everybody can find me on Facebook at Amidst the Noise, or on Twitter at Amidst the Noise, or on Instagram at Amidst the Noise. I've been a little quiet on all those fronts lately because I've been back working with my company that a lot of people don't actually know about, Boxer Tactical, because I've always kept my Amidst the Noise stuff very separate from my company. But you can expect a lot of new products from us this fall. And
Boxer Tactical, awesome.
Still waiting for that $1 million person to come along and finance my documentary. So if you're listening right now, connect to me Amidst the Noise if you want to. You want to fight for this. You want to fight for the Second Amendment. Finance my documentary.
Very cool. Well, and that about wraps us up. I apologize for the audio quality of this episode. Thanks for sticking with us. Lots of problems with Google and YouTube and everything else. I think North Korea might be invading as well. Leave your feedback by commenting on the bottom of this YouTube video or at thisweekinones.com/130. And also leave us that iTunes review, subscribe there, and contribute to the show by shopping that Amazon affiliate link. Well, thank you, Nate.
Thanks for having me on, Jake. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and I'd like to say thank you to all of your beards.
And if you're beard grooming product or shaver or anything like that.
No shaver.
No shaver.
No shaver. You kidding me?
Oh, yeah. You never know. At some point you need to, right?
I don't know. You know, come back and talk to me when it's like out of the screen.
He's competing with Willie Robertson, I think.
Well, thank you, Billy.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap. We'll see you next week.